Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're watching makoge.com. Today we'll be discussing on introduction to construction project management. These are just basics that will help us to carry out construction project. To carry out a construction project so that we can deliver this project on time, scope, cost, and quality to the client. Before we start or move to the construction project management, we'll be defining two important terms or important words, and then we give the difference between these two different words. So we're talking of a project and an operation. So here I'll be defining a project as per the project management book of knowledge, which is defined as a temporary endeavor which is designed to create a unique service or product. We'll notice that a project have got a defined start and a defined end, and it is unique. We're discussing on a project operation. Operation are activities that are being carried out after a project have been completed, or these are continuous activities that are being carried out in a facility to sustain that facility. So you notice also that a project, an operation has got a defined start, but the end is not defined. So this is the difference between a project and an operation. So next now we're discussing on contracts. Contracts. Before we start the execution of the project, we have to carry out contracts. So we define the various terms and conditions in the contract or in the clauses of the contract. So we define the contract as a legal binding agreement between the contractor and the client. So we have some different kinds of contract, which I will explain just a few or define or give it just a few. We have number one, we have lump sum contract, we have cost plus contract, we have the time and material contract when the scope is not known. Next, we move on to um, the construction management. Before we define the construction management, we define what is management, what is project management, and then what is the construction management itself. So, define what is management. Management is the act of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling resources effectively and efficiently in order to meet up with the project goal. Why project management? I'll define also project management as the project management book of knowledge as the application of knowledge, skill, tools, and technique to project activities to meet up with the project requirements as well, which is the project management. So next I'll define now what is construction project management. Construction project management is I define it as a professional service that utilizes the project management skills or approaches in order to oversee the complete planning, design, construction of the various services in a building or in a construction project. So basically, we have a construction management after defining what is management as well as the project management. Now we move to the construction project management, which is a specialized skill or a professional service that utilizes specialized skills of the project management or the approaches of the project management to oversee the complete planning, design, and the construction of activities in the project from the start to the finish. So after defining all these different words, we'll now move to engineering concepts. So we know the engineering projects are becoming increasingly complex as a consequence of improving technology and then meeting to a competitive edge. So as a result, we need project manage or construction project management approaches in order to carry out construction projects. So basically, we look at way back we had projects with limited services, but now as technology keep advancing, we now have multiple services that are being installed in buildings. So as such, we require the skills of project management approaches in order to project manage these different activities in the project. So after understanding this, now we'll now move to the triple constraint. In the triple constraint, we'll be discussing on, we'll talk about the scope, the time, cost, and quality. So we're defining the different activities to be carried out in the project. We define the cost as well, how much we will be using in order to execute that project. We define the time when we are going to start the project and when we are going to finish the project. And then the quality as well, also we define the specification as per the project clauses which is mentioned in the contract. So we understood what is a triple constraint, which is the scope, time, cost, and quality. So after understanding these different components, we'll now move to the 10 areas of project management. We should be talking of integration management, schedule management or time management. We're talking of cost management. We're talking of cost management. We're talking of quality management, procurement management, risk management, resources management, which have to do with the human resource, tools, materials, etc. Talking of stakeholder management as well. So we'll define all the different 10 areas of project management and then see the different responsibilities and how to carry out the different activities in the different 10 areas that I mentioned as per the project management book of knowledge. So, after understanding what the different 10 areas, now we'll move to project life cycle. In the project life cycle, we'll be explaining the different steps that we'll be following in order to execute a project. So, we start with initiation stage, later move to planning stage. After the planning stage, we move to execution stage. After the execution stage, we move to monitoring and controlling, then later move to the closing stage. So in the initiation stage, what we'll be doing is, which is the number one, initiation stage, the idea of the project will be put in writing, whether or not we'll be able to complete that project and to meet with the objective of the project. Is it going to end at a win-win situation whereby the client and the contractor are all happy? These are the things we are going to put down in the initiation part of the project and to see if this project can realistically be completed. In the initiation now, we would have to understand what is customer satisfaction. So define a customer satisfaction as the ratio of the perception to the expectation. The ratio of the perception to the expectation. So or define perception as a conscious understanding of something. So here, if you understand what the customer or the client needs, you give it to the client based on how the client have stated in the contract. You have satisfied the customer or the client directly. So that this other factor, which is inversely proportional to the customer satisfaction or the client satisfaction, will either increase or reduce the satisfaction. So if we increase the expectation, we will reduce the customer satisfaction or the client satisfaction. If we reduce the expectation, it will increase the client satisfaction or the customer satisfaction. It's very important to understand so we get to know how to satisfy our client when we are carrying out the project. So we will explain now the different procedures that we use in order to initiate a project. Number one, we state the different triple constraints, okay, that I've explained already, the scope, time, cost, and quality. Next, we move to developing a project charter. So developing a project charter here, we will discussing the different team members that will be needed in executing these different activities in the project, as well as their different responsibilities in the project. So next, we'll be talking on creating a work breakdown structure, which is WBS. Work breakdown structure here now will be able to identify all the different activities that will be carried out as per the contract, put them down, break them down into different sub activities, right up to the level of work packages that will be able to monitor and control them or by the various team members, which is very important as well. So the next we'll be talking of identifying the critical success factor, which is very important. Next, we'll be talking about the risk assessment. So we'll prepare a risk assessment or the contingency plan. These are anticipated risks that we are thinking might occur during the execution phase of the project. We identify them and then we also propose solutions on how we can mitigate these different risks if they pop up. So the next, we're carrying out pre-designs. After the pre-designs, now we'll be able to coordinate with the different services in the that will be installed in the building. I'll give an example of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing services that are to be installed in the building. So we have to go through the different services which are not in your scope, try to coordinate with them so that we can prepare a final design for the project, which will be now the shop drawing. So the next now we'll be moving to the planning phase. We'll discuss on the initiation stage. Now we'll move to the planning stage, number two. In the planning, the idea here is to prepare a better takeoff so that we'll be able to identify the spot where we are going to be landing with the project. We are going to see it or to see the end in sight. So we'll be able to plan properly, or like they say, if you don't plan to succeed, never mean you're planning to fail. So we'll prepare a better plan so that we'll be able to have a good takeoff or to notice when we are going to take off as well as when we are going to land. I'll give an example of an aircraft whereby we have an aircraft which is about to take off. So what to do is I have to do some checkup, check the tires, check all the different components if they are intact. And the plane now will start moving, maybe from point A, for example, it move right up to point B before it takes off. So this is just a preparation part to ensure that our takeoff will be very good so that we'll be able to monitor and control the different results that we'll be having so we get a proper landing, which is very important. I'll give the various steps that we'll be using in order to plan a project or when we are carrying out planning. So we'll be able to, when we organize the staffing or probably outline the different staffs or the different members or the team members in the project, identify the resources as well, which is maybe the financial resource, the human resource, the material resource, the tools that we needed in order to execute the different activities that we mentioned in the contract. The next now we're talking about the risk assessment, which is very important. In the risk assessment, we are going to identify the different risks that might occur during an execution phase of the project and then put down some different precautionary measures that we have to take or the different ways that we can use in order to mitigate these different risks if they pop up. So next now we'll prepare a work breakdown structure for the planning. So we'll prepare the different activities. I'll give an example of a construction industry whereby we have design phase, which we are going to monitor this design phase. We'll look at the different possible points that we will be using or the possible steps that we'll be taking in order to carry out design, maybe the pre-design to the final design, coordination with the different MEP services and all that. So we'll go through all that and then prepare the final design. So in this part now for the work breakdown structure, we have the design and then move from the design now to the execution of the work. We start carrying out execution. We now define the construction activity into three different parts, maybe the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase. We'll break them down very well, which is a work breakdown structure which we are discussing, and then move to the testing and commissioning activity, break them down maybe from pre-commissioning to the commissioning or the testing and commissioning, race inspections and all that. Okay, next will be after we break down all the different activities, identify the different time which these different activities will be carried out, and then we move now to preparing the bar chart or the Gantt chart. In preparing the Gantt chart or the bar chart, what we have to look at is two important key factors: the predecessor and the successors. We identify the different activities, the predecessing activities and the succeeding activities, and then also identify the finish to start activities, the start to start activities, the finish to finish activities, and the start to finish activities. We identify all that so that we'll be able to prepare a Gantt chart, which will be the activities versus the time. So after preparing the Gantt chart now, we'll be able now to know exactly when we will start the project and to visualize how we are going to land, and we are anticipating to land at the right spot. At the right spot of landing means all these three areas in the triple constraint have been taken into consideration, which is the scope, time, cost, and the quality. So we deliver the project on all these at with looking at all these different points in the triple constraint. So next now move to the execution, which is number three. Under execution now, we're carrying out the installation work itself at site, which will start with the material submittal. After the material submittal, we move to the shop drawings. We get approval for shop drawings. We now start, take them to site before we move to the installation works. We prepare our RAMs, prepare the ITP, which is a risk assessment and mission statement. We go to my other videos, I've explained how to prepare a RAMs or a method statement. We prepare the RAMs as well as the inspection test plan. After get the approval, now we move to MIR, which is a material inspection request. After we've got approval for the material submitter, we now move to the start. After we get approval for the material inspection request, we now move to the start, which is safety task analysis risk reduction talk, and also prepare the permit to work system, and then we can commence with our activity on site, carry out the activity on site, and then the next step now will be inspection request of the work and also for testing and commissioning. So after finishing with the construction activity, we'll be able now to move to the testing and commissioning. But before testing and commissioning, we have to prepare a different RAMs as well as a different inspection test plan or the ITP. Submit also get approval before we commence with the testing and commissioning activity. Also, we have to prepare inspection requests for the testing and commissioning for the different services or the different systems. And later move to the punch list. The punch list now here we'll be discussing on the different comments that have been generated by the consultant, either from the construction activities, maybe from site observation. So all these different punch lists or the different snack lists, we have to rectify them back on site, raise an inspection, submit, get approval before we can move to the next step. So the next now will be the NCR. NCR now will be the same comments, or probably I'll explain the comments might be um, we might have the comments as maybe some comments might be a little bit greater than the other. So we will classify the ones, some other comments which are generated and then transferred to as the NCR or the non-conformance report. So that we will get from the consultant is going to generate that, and then we have to close all of them before we move to the closing of the project and handing over to the client. After understanding the execution phase, we'll now move to the monitoring and controlling stage. In the monitoring and controlling stage, here we'll be looking at the different results that we'll be having at the output, comparing with the planned quantity. If they are not good enough, or if they are not equal to the planned quantity, we have to bring them back, control it so that we can get a desired output. Basically, for the monitoring and controlling, these are the things that we'll be doing in the monitoring and controlling. Just observing the output and making sure that it's equal to what we've planned at the planning stage. So move now to the closing. For the closing point now, what we have to do is we prepare another inspection, which is a site acceptance test. It will be accepted and approved by the client and the consultant as well, or the client representative. After that, we move to client training. After we get approval, we move to client training, deliver the project completion report, review lessons that are learned, which is very important, put them down, structure them very well so that we can use them when we are carrying out other projects. Then we obtain approval from the client, get final cost, prepare also the payment, and then also release some resources which are remaining, and then also celebrate now for success, which is very important after the completion of the project. So we handed now the project to the customer or the client. Like I mentioned, this is just a basic introduction to construction project management, which will aid or help you or give you an insight to be able to understand how to manage the different construction activities in the project so that we'll be able to deliver the project on time, on scope, cost, and quality, and then end up on a win-win situation whereby the customer will be the contractor will be happy as well as the client also will be happy. Thank you very much for watching, and I believe this video will go through and will help someone execute a project and by using the various applications which is set by the project management book of knowledge in order to execute a project, which is very important. Um, Till then, you're watching markovi.com. Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment as well so that we can best improve on the services or best improve on our video lessons. Do comment so that we'll address them when you comment, which is very important also for the quality of video lessons. Thank you very much. Till then, you're watching markovi.com.